Shalom, and today we're going to talk about the second letter of Yochanan. Now, the spirit and the language of this letter expresses much the same basic sentiments as in Aleph. Very little is said here that was not said in Aleph, and this letter is itself more of a memo or possibly a reminder. Nonetheless, it has a clear purpose that is also in relationship to the love we are to demonstrate towards those within the family of God. Yochanan writes as an elder, and he would indeed have been a very elderly man, probably in his 90s, and the only one of Yeshua's Talmidim who would die a natural death, probably the only one still living by the time of this writing. However, he's not writing simply because of his many years of experience, as he was among the youngest of Yeshua's followers, possibly the youngest. He may be the only living representative of Yeshua's Talmidim, the only one left who actually walked with and was sent out by Yeshua himself. He's also an elder in the sense of being a leader, a shaliach, a rabbi, and a teacher, one deserving of honor and respect. Those who received his letter would know that Yochanan is someone who speaks with authority over their kahila. Yochanan is writing to a lady and to her children. She must have been a person of some note, although she isn't named. Probably for the same reason that he doesn't name himself. They were known to one another. But this was also a time of great persecution, and it's conceivable that Yochanan may have wanted to avoid causing her any trouble with the Romans. Now, some say that this lady is merely a personification of a particular kahila. But in that case, why not brother? Because they don't want to believe that a woman could be a leader in a congregation. Of course, this goes against the theology of much of Christianity until recently, at least. The idea that women could actually be in any kind of leadership. But this lady was either a leader in the kahila or she was someone of great influence. Several women in synagogue leadership are known and recognized, including Priscilla, Lydia, and Phoebe. It has been the pattern of male-dominated exegesis to dismiss the idea of women in leadership, actually translating the Greek word for elder, which would be comparable to rabbi, to deacon, more like a shamish. In the case of Phoebe, just as they called Pesach Easter. As a leader, a teacher, a rabbi, or an influencer, her children could have been those in the local congregation, spiritual children, or they could, of course, have been her actual children. This lady was one who was loved and respected as a child of God by those who knew God and his truth, as per Yochanan's writings. In this letter, Yochanan's focus is on that which binds the family of God together as the lady and her children were bound together. Truth, he uses this word, it would have been emet in Hebrew, but he uses this word 37 times in his writings. It is this truth, not a truth, but God's emet, revealed through the scriptures and through the living word, Yeshua. These are the things that make us part of the family of God. Despite socioeconomic differences and independent of education and background, this truth is immutable, it's unchanging, just as God is the same yesterday, today, and for eternity. So is his truth, his word. Yochanan's greeting. Chen Rakamim Shalom. He greets his reader with a threefold traditional blessing. Chen, grace, favor, esteem. Rakamim, compassion, mercy. Shalom, often simply translated peace. The word actually means, may you be filled with well-being, health, prosperity, peace of mind and spirit, in truth and love. Without these, God's blessings cannot be given. These blessings are not given in Yochanan's own name, despite his high standing as a Talmid of Yeshua and a Shaliach. They are given in the name of God, both as the Father and from Yeshua the Mashiach, the Son of the Father. Here we see the oneness of God. It is so clear. No one should make the mistake of assuming that Yeshua has taken God's place, as with the Jesus-only groups or God is dead theology. Yeshua's human life and death are central to the Besorah, the good news of truth. The Shaliach means ambassador, one who is sent, is speaking here as one who is delighted to be able to say that those in his charge are actually living out the truth. What does it mean to walk in truth? Well, firstly, it means being committed to an understanding of what God did for them in sending Mashiach Yeshua to die sacrificially in atonement for their sin. But secondly, it is keeping the commandments of God and living in accordance with his standards and requirements. Walking demonstrates obedience to God far more than words, as described clearly in Torah, particularly in Devarim. Your children, again, these may include the lady's physical children, but it's also likely to include members of her Kehillah, those under her care and authority, her spiritual children. Apparently, only some of them are walking in truth. Yochanan pleads with her to remember the commandment which is vital to her, to life within the family of God. He reminds her this is not a new commandment, as she knows. It is given by Yeshua as a reiteration of a Torah commandment, but it's given a deeper meaning in terms of God's love for us, expressed through the sacrifice of Yeshua. Love is essential, and therefore it is of the utmost importance that it be restated and reiterated again and again. Our love for one another within the family of God is paramount. But how do we demonstrate the love of God? Well, we demonstrate it by walking according to his commandments. If we say we love God, we must obey his commandments. We must walk in his commandments. We do not consider his commandments to be a heavy burden because we know that what he has commanded is truly best for us. Those with real love, not an emotion, a feeling, but a commitment. Those who really love, have a love for God, will understand the necessity of this kind of obedience, acting out what we do when we really hear. And when we listen, we follow what we've heard. Yochanan warns against the many false teachers and deceivers. Even in the first century, there were already many false teachers and those who sought to deceive the faithful. Yochanan refers to these as false messiahs. He warns that they must continue in the knowledge that Mashiach Yeshua died in atonement for our sins so that we can be reconciled to God. Anyone who does not teach this is a deceiver. Without this faith, there is no remission of sin and no relationship with God. Consider this. If false teachers existed in Yochanan's day, how many more are there today, especially on the internet and with mass media? Apparently, there was an immediate problem with traveling teachers. They could be likened very much to the kind of evangelists or others that you see on television or on the internet. They spoke in the name of God. No one really knew very much about them. They're under no authority but their own and often have no training or base. It would have been automatic for these travelers to be given hospitality by those in the local kahila. But Yochanan declares that such people must neither be given hospitality nor an opportunity to teach. They are deceivers. We shouldn't listen to them. We shouldn't go on the internet and listen to all of the talk that we know is not from God. Some would have been deniers of Yeshua's physical nature. But whatever they're teaching, if it deviated from a clear confession that Yeshua came as a human being as well as eternal deity, the teacher and the teaching were false. Those who offered a different Messiah, maybe using the same name, but somebody quite different, are of the spirit of the false Messiah. Modern deniers, including so-called scholars of the historical Yeshua, must be met with the same attitude. They are people who reject the truth and they create lies. Such denial indicates that they also reject God as he has revealed himself through the Holy Scriptures. He has revealed not only himself, but his plan for humanity. Transgresses, this is in intention here, is going beyond a set and certain boundary. What is that boundary? Well, we're talking about those who teach, or any teacher that goes beyond the boundary of what the scriptures actually say. They may talk about having a deeper knowledge of God to be gained by new revelation or some advanced doctrine or teaching. But Yochanan says, as we have begun the race, we must finish it in order to receive the reward that God has promised his children. Don't deviate. Don't go off the path. Those who come denying the truth of Mashiach Yeshua and teaching falsely about him should be offered no hospitality and no help of any kind, and they shouldn't be listened to. We shouldn't even welcome such a person into our midst or hear anything that he or she has to say. We should not greet such a person as a brother or sister. Most specifically, these people should not be allowed in any place where the children of God meet. There are many today who say they follow God, but yet they deny the basic fundamentals taught by the scriptures, especially, obviously, in theological liberalism. These are people who say we must reevaluate our beliefs in light of modern science and current thinking. They deny much of what the scriptures teach on the basis of reason and experience. Many reject the idea of inspiration or the supernatural, which they see as absurd. I heard one recently of someone who rejects the idea of God simply because they can't imagine that, angels would have strong enough bones to be able to fly. For them, the message of redemption through the sacrificial atonement of Mashiach Yeshua is outdated and unnecessary. In conclusion, this letter explains why Yochanan has written such a short note. It was important that he write, because he's confronting a specific issue with which he was most concerned, one that required immediate attention, the sort of thing we might send out an email to explain. He's hoping to visit the lady and her children in the near future. As it is with us, Yochanan desired most of all to communicate face to face with those for whom he cares. He has a few concluding words. Greetings from your elect sister. Many teachers have made the assumption that this elect sister and her children are like the lady that Yochanan is addressing. This is merely a code for one Kahila leader and members greeting another. This has been concluded for several reasons, but mostly because Christian writers in the past have rejected the idea of women in leadership. As previously mentioned, we have evidence of these, and in addition, the co-workers of whom Rav Shaul specifically writes. Priscilla and her husband led kahilot in Corinth, Ephesus, and Rome. Lydia founded several congregations. Thasia, not mentioned by name but known from other writings, was an aristocratic lady who gave up her position and wealth to become a Talmid of Rav Shaul. And she's given the title of equal to the Shalakim, because she accompanied Shaul in founding Kehilot and was the first woman to die as a martyr. Phoebe, Romans 16, was the elder or rabbi of the Kehillah at Kanchrese. In English translations, this was deliberately changed, as I've said, to deacon, so that she would not appear to be the leader of a congregation. Shaul identifies 28 people he wants to greet in Rome, and 10 of them are women. Romans 16, who they were important leaders in the ministry there. Finally, we're reminded once again that those who are children of God, co-followers of Mashiach Yeshua, should be viewed as special to us. We must constantly guard against false teachers, whether local or more often known only from a distance, and those who do not continue to follow the truth. At the same time, we must not become intolerant and unloving of those who are truly our sisters and brothers, following the formula of faith given by Yochanan, even in our desire to stand for the truth. Shalom.